So, welcome to session number 6 of our course on Teshuva and Tequila. Teshuva and Teshuva and criminal justice. And we're going to look at transforming sins into merits. Bless you.
Bless you.
So, in the final section on, I'm sorry,
what page are we on?
Oh, let's see.
28.
We're on
28? Okay.
28. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, because we did 27 last time.
Oh, okay.
Did we, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. You're right. That was the Cantor who's the thief. Okay, so not me personally, but the guy in the thing. So we're going to explore 3 Talmudic texts which discuss a person standing after completing Teshuva. So you'll recall that we looked at the different things a person needs to do to make Teshuva, and Teshuva is this concept of returning to a relationship status that you used to have before, that you have breached because oops, or on purpose. You did something wrong and you're trying to repair the relationship by being a better person and not doing those things anymore. And we looked at things that might stop you from accepting Teshuva, like, I'm sorry, that's just beyond the pale, or we don't really believe you, or those sorts of things. But now let's consider someone who's actually completed Teshuva. They're a new person. I am not the person who did those things. It's not that I never said those words. It's that given a chance over, I would not have said those words. So before reading any of the sources, following questions. How would you describe the status of a person who's performed Teshuva in relation to who they were before they had sinned? Are they right back where they started? Are they at a higher level, a lower level? Should there be permanent consequences to their spiritual standing? What do you guys think?
Do we know this? I mean, are we privileged to know what he was like before, or do we?
Yeah, right? Like, how are you going to describe this person who has, made change, right? Like, are they at a higher level, lower level, right where they started? It's as if nothing happened. Or is it a permanent blot? We will always remember when you were in grade 3, what is it?
Well, we'd have to know that information.
Yeah, let's say you do.
So
Let's say you actually know someone from grade 3 who, did, and like, is it as if nothing happened, or are we always going to remember this, or what?
I guess you always would.
I can see where it's a little bit higher.
Okay, you think they're at a higher status now?
Slightly, yeah.
Okay, you want to explore that?
Oh, because doing Teshuva probably is not very easy. So I'm assuming that it was sort of hard on the person to go through the steps of Teshuva, admissions, et cetera, and that probably makes that person a better person. So it would probably make him a little higher.
Okay, so
of course, if he recidivated, if he goes back to his old ways, then everyone was fooled. But otherwise, I would think it would make him a little bit of a higher level.
okay. Anyone else?
Sometimes it can be hard to judge. It might be hard to judge the sincerity of it. You would like to believe that they are sincere. Sometimes it might be actions and words that you're looking at depending on, what the issue was. Such as what you were saying earlier, if they have the opportunity to do it again, do they or do they not? And I guess otherwise how they conduct themselves in general and how self-aware they've become.
Okay.
Seems like a lot of nuances to me.
It's
Right,
complicated.
just-
We're trying to think about, what stories I might know that this kind of thing happens, and there, of course, a gazillion, but. And we talked about second chances,
Mhm.
no matter what, we talked about second chances.
Okay. So to pull it back together, any other thoughts on this?
Well, the other
Yeah.
thing is like if a person murders someone deliberately, okay? Have they ever done it before? I don't know. Will they ever do it again? I don't know. Do we give that person a second chance, or do we send them to, anger management?
That'll do it.
I mean, I've been watching The Sopranos, so those people, they kill, that's part of their job,
Mhm.
and nobody's making shuva, no one. And they, I don't say that, there's some Jewish people that belong,
Yeah,
I can tell you stories, don't worry about it.
But they can't be made.
They can't be, oh, yes, they can,
They have to be Italian.
my
to be
wife's
made.
Italian.
Okay, let's pull this back
So,
together
I mean,
for what?
yeah, but like, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to put a pin in that, 'cause so our options are either, the person's made tshuva, they're a better person for having gone through the process. They're a worse person because they had to go through the process. They're the same person because it's as if nothing happened. Those are our options generally, right? Okay, so let's look at a text here. So at the bottom of the page, let's take bottom of page 28, and let me share this again. So I'll put it up on the big screen. No, really. Okay, there we go. There it is. Okay. So Rabbi Abahu said, in a place where those who have done tshuva stand, even the completely righteous do not stand. Sounds like they're better off. As it stated, peace, peace upon those who are far and near. Okay, shalom, shalom, lerachok, lekarov, lerachok, peace to those who are rachok, far away, and peace to those who are close. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan says that those who are far come first, and then come those who are close, right? Because they love reading, there has to be a reason. It didn't say near and far, they said far and near, right? What is the meaning? Rabbi Yochanan would say, what's the meaning of one who is far? This refers to the completely righteous who were distant from sin at the outset. He wants to reverse it, right? What is meant by those who are near? This refers to one who was close to the transgression and now has distanced itself from it. Okay, so Rabbi Abahu and Rabbi Yochanan are disagreeing who is a higher status, and they're using the same verse, right? Because that's what rabbis do, right? It's almost as bad as the Supreme Court. Okay, and I see that we're about to have yeah. Go for it. You have something to say?
No.
I can no. Oh my goodness, I misread the signs. Okay, so what do you guys think about that? Well, who do you think's right? Is it Rabbi Abahu or Rabbi Yochanan?
I guess if we're talking about, let's see, I think it's the person where it said they were close to the transgression and then they distanced. Perhaps they're saying, okay, that person has had some time to do some serious self-examination. And in a way, presumably brought themselves, I guess, closer to God through if they grew spiritually and learned from it, versus someone who has never had that transgression, never had the opportunity or was put in a position to do anything like that and just was always observing. So I guess they're talking about what you learned from doing tshuva and how that might bring you close and
Right.
someone else. So that seems to be what they're comparing.
But at the base level, they're not adding anything to the conversation, are they? Right? That's right. They're right there. They're not adding anything to the conversation, except one of them saying is, what does it mean to be close and what does it mean to be far? right? Rabbi Abahu is saying, if you are far, you're far from the community. If you made tshuva, you've made yourself far from the community, and we want to bring peace on you. Whereas Rabbi Abahu is saying, no. Rabbi Yochanan is saying, no. When we say far, we don't mean in relationship to the community. We mean in relationship to sin. And so what they seem to be disagreeing about is, when we're talking about tshuva brings you back close, what is it bringing you back closer to? Is it bringing you back closer to the community, or is it bringing you back closer to right behavior?
If you do the latter, you get the former automatically.
Well, no, they both do exactly the same thing. But the question is, how do you want to understand it, right? It's like the famous patent case where someone had a patent for, what you do is you take what's in front and you put it in behind. And someone said, okay, well, I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of taking what's in front and putting it behind, I'm going to take what's behind and put it in front. It has the same effect, and I'm not violating your patent. Haha. Okay, so I mean, they both come to the same. It's a true case. They both come. I studied this. They both come to the same conclusion. The question is, how are they describing it? Right? Is tshuva primarily about cleaving you from the community, or is tshuva primarily about cleaving you from or bringing you near to sin?
Wait a
Or bringing you away from sin? Okay, there we go.
second. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Well, doesn't the individual really determine that? Really, I mean,
well,
at the core,
yes and no. I think what we're saying is that, how do we understand this? Is this a story about the community and this person went astray and now he's coming back, but the community is the main character? Or is this a story about the individual and he went astray, now he came back, and the story is about the individual, right? Is this story, if we understand as a narrative, Sopranos, okay, if we understand, is this, who's the story, who's the hero of the story, the community or the individual when it comes to someone making tshuva? Is this a story about the prodigal son returning, or is this about the hero's journey?
It has to be both. I
Understand that it has to be both, right? And they both work. I understand that it has to be both. But if you have to pick one, that has to be the primary one. Okay, that's like not answer the question, because then why bother to ask the question? It's gonna say, well, it's both, right? No, okay, so here, I'll put the camera on me so nobody will
well, what are
ever
we not,
know.
Rabbi, what are we not getting here then? I mean.
No, what do you get? Okay, raise your hand. Is this primarily, is the most important part of the story what happens in the community? The completeness of the community? Or is the most important part of the story what happens to the individual? The importance of the individual? How many people say it is all about the community?
I think it's about the.
Raise your hands.
Well, okay.
Okay,
You're
two.
wrong.
No, am I wrong? 1, 3, okay. Okay, how many people think it's about the community?
No, wait, no.
Wait,
No, sorry, how many think it's about the individual?
Yeah.
You can't vote twice.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm sticking
It
with
depends.
community.
Okay, look,
Oh, really?
I'm sticking with community.
No,
Yeah, because.
no, it has to start with the individual. The individual, if the individual doesn't make the
I
tshuva,
think so.
and it has
No.
bad effects on the community. It
okay,
has to be with the
Yeah, this
individual
like-
first,
this is like
and then the
chicken before
community.
the egg.
okay, now we're actually getting something, you're actually taking a position arguing, no, you're wrong. It has to be about the community, it's about the Jews, not the individual.
It's,
But no, it's like, now you're actually saying, this is great, I don't want to hear the arguments right now, I just wanted to acknowledge that there can be a stake, okay? And for those of you who want to,
I'm out.
have both, at the presidential election, if you vote for both, it's a spoiled ballot, okay?
And illegal.
No, it's not illegal, it's just spoiled. Unless you have two separate votes and you're voting twice, and it's
Right.
illegal. Okay, no, it's not vote early and often, it's,
Just moved to Chicago.
okay, now,
Well, Philly used to go to the graveyards and write down names.
yeah. Okay, let's go to the bottom of this page. So, I just want to share it so that our people in the recording can see the rest of what's going on, because, it's important. Because we lost connection. I don't know why we lost
Oh,
connection.
no.
No, just between my thing and the thing, so, there you go. Okay. Wow, this computer is working slowly. Okay. The suspense. Okay. Hallelujah. Okay, and here you can say, put my votes up here on the board, 3 and 6. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not perfect, because I refuse to allow you guys to count twice, because that's just, don't do that. Okay, now. Reish Lakish. Now, I have to say a word about Reish Lakish, okay? Reish Lakish is a really special guy. And in fact, I'm going to pause and tell you the story of Reish Lakish in like a really short amount of time, okay? You ready for this? The thing to know about Reish Lakish is that he was not always a rabbi. He started out as, according to some people, a highway robber. According to some people, a gladiator. In any event, everyone agrees that his relationship with Rabbi Yochanan was, he saw Rabbi Yochanan bathing in the river and he thought, that looks yummy. And Rabbi Yochanan says, I understand I'm very beautiful. If you come and learn Torah, you can have my sister instead. She's more beautiful than I am. Okay, that's a very short version. Reish Lakish becomes a rabbi and a teacher, and he takes all of his strength that he would have used for killing people to learning Torah. But in his background, he is someone who has made tshuva. Okay, you have to know, he is someone who has made tshuva, right? He's one of the greats of the rabbinic movement. But yeah, he used to go kill people. That's fine. He made tshuva. Okay, so Reish Lakish says, great is tshuva, as the person's intentional sins are counted as unintentional sins. Wow. I'm a new person. And because I'm a new person, because I am a new person, my sins that I did before, those were someone else's sins. Right? I'm a new person.
Sounds like
Well,
denial
how do
to
you prove
me.
that? I mean, you have to prove you're a new person.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing about tshuva, right?
Who sets guidelines on how you're gonna do that? Do they make you wear an orange vest and go clean the trash off the highway? Do they?
Oh
make you
my
come-
goodness.
Do they make you go to a nursing home and help clean up the ill and infirm?
Okay, now we're getting to nitty gritty. You guys have woken up. This is great. Okay.
I like the trash picker better.
Wow. Wow, okay. So,
Just the smelling.
wow, how do you know that
I
they?
don't mean to take it like.
I understand.
I think it's a very serious question.
Okay, it's a very serious question. So here's the question. Last week, we were talking about, the guy who, the butcher who sold more meat than he should have, because he needed the money, because otherwise he'd lose his house. And we all understand, so yes, we understand it was duress and you're back in business and we love you. Right? And you want to talk about, does he have to wear a sign around his neck saying, I used to steal? Right? I mean, does he, it does have a big A on his, big T on his Teshuva, right? Don't we have a concept that to embarrass someone is akin to killing them, and you don't remind the convert of the things they did before they were Jewish, all the tray he used to eat, and you don't remind the person who's made Teshuva of the sins they've done before because they've improved, right? But it's like, well, wait a minute, okay, now we're sticking in our craw, right? So Reish Lakish is saying, great is Teshuva. The person's intentional sins are counted as if they were unintentional. I'm the one who's saying it's as if you're a new person. I think it's the same thing, right? I wasn't in control when I did that. I was young and I was stupid. Or I had never read before, or I was hearing on the radio about this woman who, she's an academic, she's Chinese, she came to this country, to study, and the first thing she did was Google history of Tiananmen Square, and it's like, oh my God. My country did not tell me this. And the decisions I made before I knew this information were by a different person, because now that I know this information, I'm a totally different person because now that I know. It's as if my eyes have been opened up by eating the fruit in the Garden of Eden, and now I know the difference between right and wrong. We don't judge Adam and Eve for what they did before they ate the fruit, right? Because they were children, right? So, is making Teshuva akin to that much of a change? Like, I had no idea that I was being a bigoted racist. Like, it just opened my eyes. I had no idea this was misogyny. It's just the way I was brought up.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let's look forward on the text
Well,
then.
if it doesn't allow you to do that and become a new person, what's the point of even doing it?
Right, if it doesn't allow you to become a new person, what's the point of doing it, right? That was from the very first class where we said Teshuva is part of the things created when the world was created, before God finished creating things. Because if there's no possibility for Teshuva, why should I ever bother to change my ways, right? If there's no possibility of becoming a better person, why should I ever bother to become a better person, right? Like my example of the guy who failed chemistry in first year college. And so he couldn't get into med school. So he went out and he got a master's in chemistry, and then he got a doctorate in chemistry, and then he applied to medical school, and they said, I'm sorry, you're very bright, but we cannot accept into our program someone who failed chemistry. He says, wait a minute, that was 15 years ago. Okay, had I murdered someone, I could be out on bail now. Don't you think maybe I've learned chemistry by now and you should let me in? So they let him in, right? Okay, right? So that's what we're up against. But, and this is, you're all anticipating things here, right? Because didn't Reish Lakish himself say, they're quoting him against himself. They're rebutting him with his own self, right? Okay. Reish Lakish. Great is Teshuva, as one's intentional sins are counted as merits. Oh my God, that's even more. The things I did in the past on purpose. Version A, it's as if they weren't on purpose. You can't hold me liable. Version B, no. They were on purpose and they are merits. How on earth is he going to hold that out? Okay, so we're on page 30. Okay. It's not difficult. Low concept. Teshuva through love. Your past deeds are counted as if they were unintentional. Teshuva through fear. They're counted to your merit. Okay, what on earth could that possibly mean? Okay. Like, what on earth could that possibly mean? What do you guys think?
It's a marriage, you're standing up and admitting your sins in the past.
Okay, okay. It could be a merit that but what's the difference between this tshuva from love and tshuva from fear?
Coercion.
Coercion. Okay. So let's look from you, let's look at what Yitzhak Bronstein has to say. The Talmud attempts to reconcile the two statements from Reish Lakish, right? In one statement, he states that after tshuva, one's transgressions are regarded as unintentional transgressions. In another, he states that they are considered as merits. In solving the contradiction, the Talmud suggests that one who refers to tshuva motivated by love, and the other tshuva motivated by fear. They lead a person to different outcomes. Okay. So what does it mean, tshuva from love as opposed to tshuva from fear?
I have a question before.
Yeah.
It says here, I have to close my eyes like well, or recorded unintentional transgressions. Does that mean unintentional, like,
I didn't mean to, like,
what would you call unintentional?
I turned
Not
around
checking your
and-
bank account, writing a check anyway? Or,
or like, you forgot that you're wearing, your Halloween costume with the big spider arms, and you turned to get something, you knocked something off the shelf.
okay.
Or
Okay,
you went to like answer your phone and your sleeve knocks, a giraffe off the
okay, so
table.
that's unintentional,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of
totally hypothetical.
like,
Um,
a man walking on the road dressed in
Yeah.
black and a car
Well,
hits him because the
yeah.
car didn't see.
Okay.
Well,
That's
the other thing
unintentional.
is unintentional could mean that you intended to do the act, but you didn't know it was wrong.
Yeah,
Or you didn't.
absolutely. Yeah,
Not that you didn't intend to do the act.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
and then-
both are unintentional.
okay,
And then it says, he states that they are considered to be merits.
yeah.
What do they mean? I mean, to me, when I see merit, I think of a Boy Scout. But merits is something you earn that's good. How
Okay,
does that, I mean,
so we are going to have to figure this out. And the text is gonna help us,
oh,
okay? So,
We cannot leave this room.
no, you cannot leave this room. You are trapped, you are
I'm
locked
trapped.
in
That's
here.
trapped.
Okay, first of all, tshuva,
It says contradiction.
okay, that was a contradiction.
Yeah.
Okay, so tshuva out of love. It's like, oh, I figured that out. Can't believe what a person I was before. Tshuva out of fear might be, you cannot behave this way. We're gonna have a come to Jesus conversation, which if you're from the South has nothing to do with Jesus, but it's not much of a conversation. It's more of a one-sided conversation. It's an intervention,
Mhm.
okay? Which form of, but, okay. There's an example from Hillel and Shammai. And the person who comes to both Hillel and Shammai and says, I want to become Jewish, make me Jewish. And the fellow says, well, I want to be Jewish on condition that you'll make me the high priest. Shammai hits him with a stick, chases him away, whatever. Shammai's not impressed. Hillel says, sure, no problem. You want to be the high priest? Let's sit down and learn. So they start learning Hilchot Kohanim. They start learning the laws of the code. And they go through it and they find out, aha, the Kohen Gadol cannot be a convert, cannot marry a convert. And it's like, and anyone who does this is worthy of death. And he really says, oh, well, now that I understand that, I guess I don't want to have that motivation anymore. I repent of that previous desire, okay? I think that's like coming out of love, right? It's like when you realize that you've done something wrong. I think that's love. This is just me. And I think that when you have to be told that you're doing something wrong, and maybe you really regret not being able to do it anymore, but you're not going to do it anymore because you made that commitment, that might be a tshuva out of fear. Right? Like, like my dear brother-in-law, who never, ever speeds. Now, I don't speed either, right? I take great joy when I'm driving along, you see the little thing says your speed and I take great joy trying to get that number to stop flashing red and turn green. I wanna obey the rules, right? Because I just feel that is a well-ordered society.
You cannot survive in New Jersey.
Well, no, it's 60 to 75 in some roads.
I was just driving in New Jersey. I survived. It was fine. I made sure to let the people who were like turning left on red do whatever they want. It's fine. Yeah, I follow the pack speed and all that. I'm not a danger to others. But if I'm all alone on the road and there's nobody there, yeah, I'll follow the limit because it brings me joy. My
Maybe
brother-in-law,
because you're Canadian?
no,
Something like
my
that.
brother-in-law.
Can't figure this out.
No, I was raised that way with rules. Some of us, actually like rules.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
My brother-in-law does it because he is never, ever, ever going to get in trouble with the law again because he had his experience and he does not want to go there. Okay, that's out of fear. He's much better at not speeding than I have to tell you. Because he's really
I'm not
focused. Okay.
putting you guys in my
Okay,
thought.
Yeah.
I have a question. I guess I'm a little bit shaky on this. Is Teshuva motivated by love?
Yeah,
What does that mean? And love of what or who or I don't quite get that.
I don't know. It doesn't tell us.
Oh,
We're gonna try to figure it out. We have to imagine what's Teshuva based upon love, I mean, one kind of Teshuva would be like, I've come around, I'm a better person, and I want to be better. That's love, right? Versus I have to be better. That's fear. Okay, that's my definition. I don't know if it's right or not, but certainly people make Teshuva for both of those reasons.
Let's say you could be thinking love. I guess it's different from the way we would normally think, but more of a concern for not just you being a better person, but your interactions with others, and maybe that's what they mean by love,
Yeah.
rather than in the sense we might think of it at first. That's all, that's
Right.
what I can come up with.
Right, or, why do people obey laws? Some people obey laws because they love society. They love their country and they want it to be harmonious. And so they want to keep everything running. And it gives them pride. Pay their taxes on time, never cheat on their taxes. And some people do exactly the same behavior, not because they love society, but they're afraid of enforcement. They pay their taxes on time, they never cheat because they're terrified of the IRS and would love to see it defunded because that would make it, less likely for them to be trapped. Bad rabbi. Okay. So what might it mean for transgression to become a merit or an unintentional sin? Is there experience in your life where you can apply that? I mean, is there anything in your life where you say, something I did bad is now something that I'm kind of happy I did that? I mean, had life gone differently, I would never have done that. But having done that, I would not give that up.
And how about civil disobedience? If you're in a group of people, you're protesting something and you get arrested. Looking back on it 10 years later, you say, I'm glad I did it because it changed our society.
Yeah, okay, there we go, the civil disobedience route.
great.
There's a great debate between,
You have redeemed us.
yes. So there's a debate between the legal philosophers H.L.A. Hart and Lon Fuller. And they would go around debating, okay? Hart believes in that morality comes from human beings. And Fuller believes that morality comes from God. Hart, so both of them address the question of what do you do with an unjust law? A law that would be immoral. Do you obey an immoral law? Both Hart and Fuller say no, but for different reasons. Hart says you disobey an immoral law because it's immoral, and you take the consequences, and that's your form of protest. Civil disobedience. Fuller says you don't obey the law because an unjust law isn't a law. It is not a law, and therefore there's no law that you are not disobeying, and the society that thinks it's it's not a real law, and eventually society will figure out that they were wrong to make that law. Okay, both of them are having the same thing happen to them, right? They're both not obeying and they're both getting arrested. But Hart is saying, I own this arrest and I'm motivated to change the law. And Fuller is like, I'm unjustly arrested. And, you know, society needs to make tshuva. Okay. I'm not sure why I just added that. I think it's about, you know, the ownership you take of something, right? So recently, Kedma and I were going back over life and all the decisions that we made. And it's like, okay, that was harebrained. That was misinformed. That was made out of love and not out of, you know, that was just unfortunate. And it's like, but we would not be the people who we are if we hadn't had that biography. So I wouldn't trade it, right? Would not trade it. Be lovely if the things didn't happen. I would not trade it, right? So they kind of count as merits. Maybe, I don't know. Let's look at this text because maybe it'll help us, okay? So let's look at this text. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, that's a great guy. Even if one was completely righteous all their life and then rebelled by sinning at the end, their early merits are lost. As it is written, the righteousness of the righteous shall not save one on the day of their transgression. That's from Ezekiel. Okay, this is the exact opposite of the stereotypical deathbed conversion to Christianity, all your sins forgiven. Okay? This is like, I did good all my life, and at the very end, I did something terrible. Everything I did good before does not count. Does that sound realistic?
No.
No. So, who was one of, in terms of getting things done for this country, and okay, I'm not the world's greatest expert in the United States, but I read opinions and I think, okay, that seems reasonable. Who was one of the very best presidents we ever had in terms of actually getting things done and improving the country and making it a better place?
Harry Truman.
I
Okay,
was just gonna say Harry Truman, Johnson.
so high up on the list, according to some people, is Richard Nixon.
But I was kids.
Well, they're all corrupt.
Oh my goodness, Richard Nixon, right? I mean, I see the risk because, oh my God, man, he did this thing. Yeah, but before he did that, like, had he not had this moment of doubt and investigating whatever, he won the election anyways, right? He was a great president, according to some opinions, right? But we don't think of any of the good things that he might have done because everything's overshadowed by that thing at the end, right?
That was an ego trip.
I understand, but the thing is, that's an example of, well, don't tell me about any of the good things he did. I mean, you know, it's all focused on the end, right? So we kind of do that sometimes, right? It's like if, you know, when we talk about Al Franken,
Oh, right.
okay, he did a lot of great stuff. And he
sure
killed
did.
him for the stupidest of reasons, but that's all, but that was the thing, right? Okay, so The righteousness of the righteous will not save them on the day of their transgression, especially if it's something really terrible. So it's the joke about, this guy who murdered. He was the nicest family man. He gave to charity. Oh, the Ivan Bodsky, right? Didn't he like give a lot of money to Jewish causes, or even better,
Mike Milken.
Native.
Mike Milken.
Mike Milken, yeah, or the king of them all, the Ponzi guy.
Oh, Native. Oh, the other guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Begin with an E, was it?
Epstein. No,
Yeah.
that's a
No,
different.
not
no,
Epstein.
Not
No.
Epstein.
No.
But he had like,
Madoff.
was it Madoff? Bernie Madoff? It was
Well,
Bernie
look
Madoff.
at it.
Yeah, okay,
It's
yeah,
a guy
there you go.
before
Yeah,
him.
okay. Now. It says. And even if one was completely wicked all the days of one's life and did tshuva at the end, we do not recall their wickedness any longer. Well, that's very Catholic. As is written, and as for the wickedness, he shall not stumble over it on the day that he turns from his wickedness. Okay, so
So here we are remembering everything what you did at the end in both cases.
well, yes and no. No, no, for this other guy, it says, if one was completely wicked all of one's life and did tshuva at the end, we do not recall their wickedness any longer.
Right. We recall what they did at the end.
Right. So, in other words, we have amnesia at the end. It doesn't matter what you do at the end. Sorry, it doesn't matter what you do in life, it's what you do at the end. What do you think of that?
Psychology calls that the recency effect.
Oh, psychology calls that the recency effect. I love that.
The
I
what?
love that.
Recency.
What have you done for me lately?
Okay, what have
Okay.
you done for me lately?
Okay. Other thoughts on that?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, it's very pragmatic, isn't it?
Mhm.
Right? Because, it doesn't really matter what you've done in the past. I want you to know, what are you going to do now? Right? So if you're a car mechanic, it's great to know about all the great work you've done in the past. But what I really want to know is the work that you're about to do. Is it good? Or if you decided now's the moment to strike, right? So is that fair? Is it fair to talk about just what people do in the end? Is it the here and now that matters?
Makes it easy in a way. It's what people tend to look at.
Okay.
There's a say, it's not a saying, but I think it was a psychological assessment that the news stays real news for 3 days. And then the public politely forgets what happens. So if you're if you've murdered someone, public's only gonna remember it for 3 days until you get to trial or something, or if you don't ever get to trial, it'll be forgotten. And then maybe a few weeks later, you give money to build a homeless shelter.
Yeah.
Are they gonna remember the homeless shelter?
My father always said, when billing a client after a successful anything, bill them right away. Because the moment after you win the case or you sign the deal, my lawyer, he's amazing.
So you get the bill.
And a week later, it's like, you did a good job. About a month later, it's like, actually, anyone could have done that job. But 2 months later, it's like, I think I might sue him. So, but it kind of rings true in a way, doesn't it? Because if I've done good all my life, and then I do bad, we're not concerned about, it's what they're gonna say is, don't tell me about your resume, Mr. Cantor. Tell me about the tshuva you've made for the thing that you did bad. If you make tshuva, we can undo that thing and we'll forget that thing and now we'll consider it good going forward. But if you don't make tshuva, we're not going to consider it.
Well, there are some, if you make an analogy to criminal justice, I mean, there are some crimes where in certain jurisdictions, you have life without parole.
Yeah,
Means that's it.
yeah,
Doesn't matter whether you do tshuva or not.
right.
You're
And,
stuck because you did a very bad thing.
right, I mean, there's,
So, I mean, it depends.
and there's a lot of injustice. The case that I always quote, because it really annoys me, it's a case in Colorado. 17-year-old and his friend. And what happened, I've told you this already, right? Does anyone remember what happened?
17-year-old.
Okay,
Tell us.
his friend was being abused by the parents. So the friend murdered the parents. Calls up our guy, 17-year-old, says, I murdered my parents, come over, help me clean up. So he came over and he mocked. The person who actually did the murder, 17, no one's going to convict him, right? So they tried him as a child, right? Youth. And he got like probation or whatever, and you know, because it's not like he's likely to murder anyone else, because it's only parents he has. But, and I should mention it was an election year. And in Colorado, apparently they elect their district attorneys, and he admitted to mobbing. 17, let's try him as an adult. Maybe 16, let's try him as an adult. Your Honor. Accessory after the fact, murder 1, counts as murder 1. He admitted to mobbing. Life in prison. Still there. Okay, so okay, but that's more about the problems with a politicized legal system. Bad rabbi. Than anything else. But
I'll give you one better.
oh, please, because I need a new one.
Early, so I was raised in New York, early 70s, Nelson Rockefeller was the governor of New York. You had marijuana on you, life in prison, no parole.
Wow.
Exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't
there were
even-
judges who were crying, making the sentence, because they didn't want to do it, but the law said you had to.
And but those people got out later, right? Under
Well,
some
they
kind of
started changing the
amnesty?
laws to real, yeah.
Yeah,
But the point is, if that never happened,
yeah,
whereas, like you said, murderers,
yeah.
7 years, you're out.
Yeah, well, it depends on who and who and what. So bringing this all together, I want to suggest that maybe what we have so far is this. If we're thinking about society, and you can disagree with me because that's the best part of it. If we're thinking about a society and we want society to run well, we want to have a system where we can motivate people to become good members of society. Because as a general rule, the Jewish society does not have imprisonment, okay? There's death, there's pain, there's money, there's exile, but there's no imprisonment because who can afford that, okay? So we want to have this, we want to, as much as possible, bring people back into society or get rid of them, okay? So I want to have a motivational system that if someone goes astray, we can put them back in. So I want to have a tshuva system where if you realize what you've done wrong and you are now willing to keep your nose clean, I want to make it so you can re-enter society and have reasonable safeguards that, you know, you'll be a good member of society. So it makes sense to say, we'll forget all of your bad past if you make tshuva. And it also, because I'm worried about the best for society, if you were good all your life and now you've done wrong, I don't want to gamble on that just being an outlier. I want to know that you're over that wrongness before I give you any credit for the things you did before. Okay. So you're in bad graces, but you have the process of tshuva, just like the person who's bad. So it doesn't matter if you're bad all your life or bad just on Thursday. This process of tshuva is there for you to get back into the good graces. So that's looking from society's point of view. Right? From the individual's point of view, we want people to be good. And if people do bad, we want them to grow through a therapeutic process of self-reflection and changing their mind and doing things and maybe chopping off their head. No, we don't. And to get them to motivate to be better behavior, right? And so we will not let you forget the stuff you've done in the past. But the moment you turn over a good leaf, we'll ignore it. It never happened. So let's read this little thing here, then I'm going to tell you the tail end of racialization, because it is relevant here. Okay. So in this unit on rehabilitation, we explored a number of ways rabbis prioritize making the rehabilitation process less onerous. The person who stole the beam doesn't need to dismantle the house. But the butcher found to be fraudulently selling non-kosher meat, higher standard before the community can trust him in, because he's a guy, right? Bottom 30. We've also explored how time comes into the conversation. Gaon ruled that the Cantor could resume the role after a significant amount of time had passed since the last description. In the final section, we have seen text navigate the question of one's spiritual standing at the conclusion of the rehabilitation process, how one transgressions can potentially become a source of merit. Although it was a little slight on that, and I'm still not sure that we're getting it. So let's look at Aryeh Deri. So he was a political leader convicted of bribery, served 22 months in prison. After his ban expired, he returned to politics, was reelected, and was the Minister of Economy. Concerning the text we've explored, how would you approach this case? Should Deri have been allowed to return to a public office after his release from prison? Well, not right away, but after 7 years? And all those 7 years, he was not getting into further trouble?
Well, did he admit it, his crime ultimately or not? I don't.
Well, I mean, he served in prison, I assume.
Right,
you
but
know,
he said, I'm unjustly convicted.
Okay, so I don't know how it works in
Yeah.
Israel. I don't know how it works in the United States. I think it's the same. But in Canada, you cannot get out on parole unless you admit you've done the thing wrong.
I think that's
Which was a terrible story for David Milgaard, who served 22 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. It was the guy in the first story of the house that he was staying over that night. But he was, he was a hippie guy and played rock music, and he would have been out after 5 years. He served 22 years in prison for a crime he did not commit because he would never admit to committing the crime he didn't commit. Okay? That's a problem with the system. Okay. So let's assume that Deri admitted that he did wrong and he made tshuva. Okay. Should he allow to run public office? I mean, they said yes. Would you guys say yeah?
Depends on Israeli law. Can a convicted felon run? If the answer is yes, you can't stop him.
Okay, right, but like
Morally.
I mean,
Well, that's your vote.
I mean, no, I understand, but we're being. I'm asking you to do something that you're never supposed to do in life, which is be judgmental. Do you think he should have been able to run?
Well, he has to say what he did good in the last 7 years. Did he, to really show that he
Let's say.
would never do that again?
Let's say he behaved in such a way that people were convinced, hey, I trust this guy. Let's say in the 7 years that he's out, he was earning the public's respect enough that they would actually vote for him. Do you think he should still be allowed to run? Sure. Okay. If so, should he be prevented from serving in a financially sensitive role? Because after all, it was a fraud thing. Should he be not allowed to do finance?
No, because there should be enough safeguards
I suppose
within
there
the
is
system to
checks and
prevent
balances.
anybody from committing fraud.
Now, if you remember when we were introduced to him, Has your opinion on what should happen to dairy changed at all over the course of our discussion? Have any of these texts had any influence at all on the way that you're thinking? Other than, how you might judge Tony Soprano. Well, hold on to that. We'll talk about, yeah.
If you go by American jurisprudence,
Yeah.
hate is debt to society.
Yeah. Okay, so we have like 1 minute. So I'm just gonna tell you the story about Reish Lakish because it is valuable. And I'm gonna tell you the beginning, I'm gonna tell the end. So Reish Lakish comes upon Rabbi Yochanan bathing in the river. He says, "Your beauty is fit for women." Rabbi Yochanan says, "Your strength is fit for learning Torah. I'll teach you Torah, and you can marry my sister. She's more beautiful than I am." He becomes a student. He becomes his equal. They become lifelong study partners. Near the end of his life, they're having a disagreement. When is something finished? So you know when something is finished when you're making it, because an unfinished product is impervious to tuma, the death force, the impurity. But a finished product can be made impure, okay? So when something's finished, it is now vulnerable. But while it's in the process of being made, it's invulnerable. Because otherwise you could never make anything, okay? It's just, while you're making it, it's not finished yet. But once it's finished, it's okay. So in the same way that you can put a branch on top of your sukkah and call it schach. But if you take that branch and you peel off and make it to a nice stick, now it doesn't count anymore, right? It has to be an unfinished product. So they're talking about a knife. Rabbi Yochanan says, at the last hammer blow. The last hammer blow, it's done, it's finished. The knife. And Reish Lakish says, no. After that, you put it in the water to temper it. That's when it's finished. And damn it, he was right. And Rabbi Yochanan didn't like being wrong. So what does he do? He says, trust a brigand to know his trade. Trust a gladiator to know his trade. Trust a thief to know the tools of his trade. It's a diss. After all these years and everything has come, you're going to remind me that I had made Teshuva? How can you do that? It's very, very, very sad. And Rabbi Yochanan won't take the words back. I'm cutting out a couple of steps, but it works out to the same way. And Reish Lakish dies. Broken heart. And then Rabbi Yochanan goes nuts because he's lost his best friend. He has he also dies. So that's that story. But can you imagine this guy who came from nothing and ends up being one of the leaders of society? And then he can just be cut down to that little guy again with just one comment. But he made Teshuva. That should not have been held against him. Right? So that's the other part of it is, once we have achieved a homeostasis of, okay, everything's good now, you can not participate in what I call, and others call, it's not my term, histrionics. Right? You can't. If someone has become a good person, you don't hold their past against them if they've made tshuva. We are not meeting next week because it's a holiday. It's the holiday of Shavuot.